What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Jaime Dee Show. Woo! Live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. PST out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and live on WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM every Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. CST out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. We're also live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook at The Jaime Dee Show. That's spelled TheJaimeDeeshow, a real live radio show. I'm also streaming live on Instagram right now at It's Jaime Dee. That's spelled ITSJaimedee. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. I see we got Camilla in the house. We got Chef Natty. We got Laura Marie. We got JH116. Shout out to those who are tuning in live right now on Instagram. We got Kara out of Phoenix, Arizona, live on the YouTube. And for those who are listening in their cars right now in Las Vegas and in the Elgin/Chicagoland area, thank you so much for not turning that radio dial. I super appreciate you all. There's not enough appreciation I can give you all for tuning in and supporting my live radio show. Thank you. It means the world to me. Seriously. All right. So for today's show rundown, we're going to have a conversation about the daily news because, we got to get into some things because there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world. I wonder when I'll be able to stop saying that. Today was just a good day. There wasn't any crazy stuff. Everything was great. Nope. We're going to talk about it, all right? And then later on in the show, we're going to have Dr. Amara Pope. Oh, I'm super excited. She's coming in live from Canada. She is a media and marketing expert, and she's going to join me live to talk everything about the history of Canadian R&B. So stick around because you can ask her questions. You're more than welcome to call in at 847-931-1410. Again, that's 847-931-1410 to get in the conversation and ask her questions. But if you're not able to call in live, I will acknowledge your comments. Comment live on the streaming platforms. I'll read them and I'll chat them out loud. All right, let's get into some news. According to Fox 5 Vegas, the U.S. Department of Transportation announced it's approved $2.5 billion in additional private activity bonds for the Brightline West High-Speed Rail project. That adds to the $1 billion in bonds the DOT invested in the project in 2020. The project is also receiving $3 billion from President Joe Biden's infrastructure law. Quote, President Biden's historic infrastructure package gives us the opportunity to build safe, green, and accessible rail systems that will deliver benefits to the American people for generations to come, end quote, said U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. The 218-mile rail line will connect Las Vegas to Southern California. The 218-mile rail line will connect Las Vegas to Southern California, and it promises to create 35,000 jobs. Oh, yes. It was going to reduce traffic on I-15 and reduce carbon emissions by more than 400,000 tons a year. Isn't that insane? Construction is expected to begin this summer of 2024. The goal is to have it up and running in time for the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. 11,000 workers will be soon hired to build the high-speed Brightline rail from Las Vegas to California. Brightline's founder and chairman says he sees the rail line as a part of the future of transportation in the U.S. Quote, as the first true high-speed rail system in America, Brightline West will serve as the blueprint for connecting cities with fast, eco-friendly passenger rail throughout the country, end quote, said Wes Edens. Quote, connecting Los Angeles and Southern California provide widespread public benefits to both states, creating thousands of jobs and jump-starting a new level of economic competitiveness for the region. We appreciate the confidence placed in us by DOT and are ready to get to work, end quote. The new funding comes in the form of private activity bonds. These are bonds issued on behalf of a state or local government to fund qualified projects like airports or hospitals. They function as an alternative to corporate bonds and allow governments to borrow on behalf of private companies. Now, I have lived in 9 major cities so far, and I've been in Miami when they said they're going to build a high-speed rail from Miami to Orlando, and then Obama backed that up. I was in D.C. when they said they were going to build a high-speed rail from D.C. to New York. I don't know who backed it up, but it was backed up. And then I lived in L.A. and also Las Vegas most recently, where they had this idea. And when I was working at iHeart, we were talking about this trail, this train for the longest time. It was literally like an everyday news segment, I swear. And I thought it was already approved. I thought they already started working on the train, but I guess not. Starting this summer, I like it. I like connecting cities that are really not that far away from each other. 'Cause, I mean, if you think about it, LA to Las Vegas is 4 hours. Miami to Orlando is 3 hours. DC to New York is 4 hours. So if you want to cut down a drive to 2 hours, I would gladly hop on that train. I think that's cool to be able to cut down travel in half and allow people to not only go to work, but allow people to live in certain places where they don't feel like they have to live specifically in the city that they work in, because now they have other modes of transportation. I personally like it. There's a lot of people out here who are protesting against it, but I like it. I'm with connecting communities and making ways for us to travel faster happen. All right, get into the super bizarre story as posted by Hollywood Unlocked. A 64-year-old Massachusetts woman, Roxanne Doucette, has been charged with attempting to kill her 73-year-old husband, Paul Doucette, after falling victim to an online scam. The scammer, posing as Thruston K, a soap opera star from, quote, The Bold and the Beautiful, end quote, manipulated Roxanne into serving her husband poisoned soup. The couple's daughter, Nicole Heath, suspected foul play and shared incriminating text messages, screenshots with the police. Heath discovered a series of text messages between her mother and the scammer, which suggested Roxanne's involvement in the poisoning plot. In one message, Roxanne mentioned making a special potion soup for her husband, ensuring he wouldn't be hungry when he returned. Another message hinted at collecting life insurance. These messages and her husband's testimony about the soup tasting bitter raised serious concerns, as reported by Daily Mail. Take a listen to this news report.
I didn't poison him.
As she stood in the doorway of the house on Ash Street, where she's under investigation for feeding her husband poisoned soup in early December, Roxanne Doucette tearfully denied it.
I've never ever tried to poison him in any way whatsoever. I love him very, very much, and I would never try to kill anyone.
She claims the soup was simply old, but things took a bizarre turn hours later when she called 911 and her 73-year-old husband Paul was rushed to the hospital. That's where the couple was met by their daughter, who was suspicious and began to examine her mom's phone. According to court documents, there are messages on that phone from a scammer claiming to be a soap opera star who wanted to hook up with her, with one message saying, quote, "You have to get rid of your husband, honey. I need you so much."
It was a scam.
But court documents say she eventually wrote back, quote, "Making an amazing soup, special potion. Maybe I could collect life insurance." Her 73-year-old husband was barely conscious when first taken to the hospital, but survived. And while acknowledging it's the talk of the Townsend police chief is urging against any rush to judgment.
I just tell everybody to just kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, think things through before you spread things, or before you think you know what's going on. Sometimes it's a little bit more complex than it seems.
A limited toxicology test on Paul Doucette came back negative, but Roxanne is now under court order to stay away from him.
I just want him to come home. I just love him so much.
When police tried to seize her iPhone as evidence, they say Roxanne Doucette fought back and kicked them. For that, she's also charged with resisting arrest and assaulting an officer. Live in Townsend tonight, Ken McLeod, WBZ News.
All right, Ken.
Man, I don't believe it. She tried to poison her husband and get that life insurance. I don't know if you guys saw that news report, but those were alligator tears. She can save it. That lady was trying to kill her husband. And the crazy part is, they were together for so long. You literally never know who you're married to. You could swear up and down this person would never harm me. They wouldn't do this to me. And then time will tell you that that was a lie. Oh, life is so scary. The world is so scary. You literally never know who you're married to, who you're friends with, who's going to turn their back on you out of nowhere. How? Gina Chandler says, I saw it. She was crying. No, she wasn't. She was lying. She tried to poison her husband to be with that celebrity who was a scammer. And it's so funny, too, because people in the comments are saying how much you want to bet it was her daughter scamming her mom so they could both collect life insurance. Oh, the world is a crazy place. Shout out to Gina Chandler. Shout out to Miss Dupar. Shout out to Tracy. Shout out to Kara. Yes, shout out to people who are tuning in live. We got Camilla. We got Laura. It's an absolute pleasure to have you guys listening in. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have the amazing Dr. Amara Pope. I'm so excited. She's streaming in from Canada. Oh, okay. I wanted to do this thing, like the stereotype Canadian thing, but I don't want her to beat me up. All right, guys, stick around. This is KSHB out of Las Vegas and WRMN out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. I'll be right back.
Taqueria Las Cumbres, Crystal Lake's authentic Mexican restaurant on Grant Street, is open for carryout. For over 15 years, Taqueria Las Cumbres has been serving up all of your favorite Mexican dishes and doing it better than the rest. Recently voted the best in McHenry County. Stop in and carry out the authentic taste of Mexico and see for yourself. Support local for lunch and dinner today and place an order from Taqueria Las Cumbres. Call 815-455-8200 for Taqueria Las Cumbres of downtown Crystal Lake.
This is Marky B inviting you to feel the power of the first shift.
To God be the glory, my brother. Thank you so much. You are such an inspiration to many of folk that's here in Elgin. I'm in West Dundee. I'm a Dundeeite now, not an Elginite anymore, but I love you. I can even give a number of prayers that we as a people continue to grow and to be there for one another. Please, people, let's get on board. Check on your neighbors, check on your friends, and just give an inspiration that life is worth living.
It's the first shift weekday mornings from 6 until 10, right here on WRMN.
Family owned for over 40 years with 3 locations around the Elgin area, Beef Villa is open and ready to serve you. Stop in or drive through and get your lunch or dinner hot and fast. Enjoy burgers, dogs, chicken, and of course beef is waiting for you at either Elgin locations or South Elgin location of Beef Villa. Stop in for the Friday fish special, Villa Burger, pulled pork, or the incredible salads available from Beef Villa. Need help feeding a large group? Catering is always easy with Beef Villa. Go to beefvilla.com for catering options. That's beefvilla.com.
For great quality tasting Italian food and pizza, make your destination the Italian Pizza Kitchen on Irving Park in Roselle. The freshest Italian ingredients are used at Italian Pizza Kitchen, where the plentiful pasta dishes are created from old home recipes. Try the piping hot pizza or other favorites like the fall off the bone ribs. Italian Pizza Kitchen has a passion for outstanding food and service. From their family to yours, Bon Appetito. Call 630-582-1900.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Jaime Dee Show. Woo! Live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. PST out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and live on WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM every Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. CST out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. If you're just now tuning in, I went over some daily news, and now we're at the best part of the show. We have an amazing, exciting, knowledgeable, and when I tell you, such a barrier-breaking woman out of Canada. And not only is she out of Canada, but she's a Canadian Trini. Oh, shout out to my Trinis, y'all. Y'all know I love y'all. I'm super excited to bring her on because we're going to break down the history of Canadian R&B. We're going to talk about the marketing strategies of big name artists like Drake, Justin Bieber, and Jessie Reyez, why she is so passionate about the world of music and how it affects our society, why diversity in music matters, and more, because she actually defended her dissertation, got her PhD, and she is a media expert. Listen, she got her PhD in media studies. Y'all, what better way to have not an amazing, but an outstanding individual come on my show and tell it all. Let's welcome in Dr. Amara Pope. Woo! What's up, friend? How are you?
Hello. What an introduction. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure having you on. You look great.
Oh, thank you. I had to dress up a little bit for you, you know?
Yes, thank you. You are live on the radio in Las Vegas and Chicago. We're bringing you from Canada to America, friend. Yes.
So wait, before we start, you got to tell me what these Canadian stereotypes you were worried about projecting on me were.
No. I wasn't going to project any stereotypes. I wanted you that she's Canadian, eh?
Oh, that's okay. I'm guilty of saying A. My
Yes,
Trinity parents made fun
friends.
of me. all the time.
Yes, I literally have friends who live in America who are from Canada, and they hate it when I do that to them. Hate it.
I'm gonna fully admit I do it all the time, so that's
Love
okay.
it. Love it. Okay, so we have you live on air, and before we get into the depth of this interview, I actually want to give you some time to shine a light on yourself so people can get to know who exactly Dr. Amara Pope is, because you deserve your flowers. I mean, I kind of gave you an introduction a little bit about you having a PhD, but let's talk about your road to becoming a media and marketing expert.
Great. Well, I got my bachelor's degree in English and Fine Arts with a digital media specialization. So I was always interested in different forms of communication. That led to a master's degree where I studied Drake's marketing and branding strategies in different music videos. So I look at how he represents different identities in different videos. And that actually was picked up in the media. And after I presented it at a couple conferences across Canada, the Toronto Star, Vice, a bunch of top name media outlets covered my dissertation and my topic. And that led me to do a TEDx talk. And this was all before my PhD. So all of this kind of created that huge interest I had in looking at the marketing and branding strategies of Canadian artists. So when I went to do my PhD, I wanted to continue to look at what Drake, Justin Bieber, and Jessie Reyez was doing in the contemporary space. But when I went to look at their research or look at their presentation of themselves and of Canadianness, I did the research on them and I wanted to see what they did differently from artists before them. But what I found was the history of Canadian R&B was actually missing in a lot of canonical texts in academia. A lot of these Canadian R&B artists in the 60s and 70s, their interviews were kind of dispersed in different articles, but there was no big book that said, this is what Canadian R&B is. So I almost had to do that historical work to then look at what artists like Bieber, Drake, and Reyes were doing differently today. So it's that history and then the development of Canadian R&B.
Oh, I love that. Now, I just want to let you know that we are, like I said, live on the radio in Las Vegas and Chicago, but we're also live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. So I will be looking back and forth at all of the different streaming platforms so that I can get your questions in, because there are people who are actually commenting right now. And I want to ask you this, because you spoke about how you found an interest in music history, specifically Canadian R&B music history. Mm-hmm. What was it that truly said to you, let this be my focus. Let me take a pathway down Canadian R&B and really digesting, dissecting Canadian music?
Well, like I said, I was originally interested in marketing and branding of the contemporary space, but when I went to look for that history, I saw so many Caribbean Canadian artists that were trying to claw their way into mainstream media. But in Canada, it was so overlooked if artists were participating in quote unquote Black music. So that includes soca, reggae, calypso, hip hop, R&B. So many artists in the periphery of society collaborated and came together, got recognition in the US, and then came back to Canada and still were fighting their way through to get mainstream media access. So when I saw the struggles that many of these artists were facing, I reflected on the immigrant struggle that my parents faced in Canada. They're Caribbean immigrants in Canada. They faced racism. I faced racism. So just hearing some of the stories that these artists told resonate with me and the experiences of my family, that became something I was super passionate about. So although I was interested in marketing, the history is where my heart really lay.
That makes sense. I love that. Now, let's talk about this, because you did say that you're, and I also said it as well, you're Canadian Trini, your parents are immigrants. Your parents are immigrants, and you have faced racism yourself. One thing that I know through my own background in education and things I've studied in my master's and my bachelor's as well, is that there's a difference between ethnicity and nationality. And your nationality is that you're a Canadian and that you're Trini. But what do you identify as when you're checking a box when it says Black, white, Hispanic? I know that a lot of times, because I'm going to tell you why I asked you this question, because I did a lot of research on you. And one thing I love about you is how vocal you are about how, and I love this so much, about how growing up, you said that people oftentimes kind of semi-interrogated you to kind of say like, hey, what are you? I've got that a lot, even living in many different major cities. Like even when I went to Miami, people thought I was Dominican. I'm like, no, I'm just Black. But I want to kind of like make it clear for everybody, like when you talk about your actual ethnicity, what do you truly identify as?
I consider myself a Trinidadian Canadian. So when I talk about that identity, when I talk about R&B specifically, I talk about how that national and that racial identity seems to be separate, because as you mentioned, those are different kind of aspects of your larger intersectional identity. And a lot of Canadian R&B artists faced racism and exophony, but because they were Canadian and they were non-Black. many of them. So they were challenged for participating in R&B that's considered traditionally American Black space. So as Canadians and as diverse racial identities, they kind of had a double whammy. They were challenged for their authenticity in creating R&B music.
I love that. And when you say Black music, there is really a intersection between what is considered cultural Black and what is actual ethnicity Black. And when we look at this research behind music and how it has truly changed our society, we see that sometimes, like you said, they don't allow true Blackness in. A lot of times they allow people who are soft Black or who are able to present well with our community and with people who are going to digest music. What's your thoughts when you look at people who are fair-skinned Black versus dark-skinned Black who are trying to break into the industry?
One thing I did in my dissertation is look at what Justin Bieber, Drake, and Jessie Reyez were each facing in terms of their challenge for their participation in the space of Canadian R&B music. And Drake has outlined, for example, Hotline Bling. He says that was supposed to be traditionally a pop genre category, but it was pushed into a Black music genre category because of his skin color. Justin Bieber is a white Canadian, so he talks about being inspired by Canadian or by Black culture, but because he's Canadian, because he's white, he's challenged for his participation in the space. And Jessie Reyez talks about even being a woman in the space and how that's pushed her out a lot of the time. So I think all these different aspects of identity are really important when you're looking at the categorization of music, but also just the relativity of race in the sense that, you could categorize race in so many different ways. Like, for example, people were questioning my identity for being Trini because I wasn't dark enough. Whereas in Canada, I'm too dark to be Canadian. So, it's just very relative where you go.
Which is so insane because if you look at demographics all over, no matter if you're in North America, South America, Central America, Europe, they're all diverse countries and continents. You have all these different spaces that have white, Black, Hispanic, neither, other. And when they try to take it to a space where it's like, you're not white enough to be here, it's really disgusting. Because a lot of these spaces are built on the backs of other demographics.
100%. And that's what I argue about Canadian R&B. Like we're predominantly immigrants now, and it was the work of those immigrants that created the music that we celebrate today, yet they were pushed out of Canadian media. So it's crazy.
Hey, Dr. Amara Pope, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have more interview questions for you. Stick around. This is the Jaime Dee Show live on KSHP out of Las Vegas and also WRMN out of the Elgin and Chicagoland area. Hey, like I told you, if you have any questions, comment live. I'm looking at all the streaming platforms. My hands are going everywhere. My eyes are going everywhere. I'm still keeping my questions in my head, all right? I got y'all. Or call in at 847-931-1410. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hey there, this is Marky B from the First Shift Morning Show, and on my show, I try to make local movers and shakers feel comfortable when they join me for interviews, like Sherry Blazier of the Elgin History Museum.
I think I need to note to you that I just looked at my mood ring, and it is perfectly purple, which means I'm very happy and content and sailing along. I figured if I immersed myself in the accoutrements, I would be in the mood for this.
Accoutrement? Is that what you said?
Accoutrement.
What she said. Just join me mornings from 6 until 10 a.m. right here on WRMN.
Discover the charms of life along the Mother Road, historic Route 66 at the Hampton Inn of Litchfield, Illinois. The Hampton is off of Route 55, just 56 miles northeast of St. Louis. Dine in at Nancy's Pizza next door, or the historic Ariston Restaurant on Old 66. Cruise into a drive-in movie. And for fishing, boating, and hiking, Lake Louisacre is the centerpiece of Litchfield's bustling outdoor culture. For reservations, call 217-324-4441.
Experts say regular auto maintenance is one of the most important things for your car. Meineke Car Care Center at 376 Sundown Road in South Elgin covers all your automotive needs. From oil changes, brake services, and emission testing, Meineke's expert staff provides hard work and dedication with the utmost professionalism. Need an oil change? Visit Meineke in South Elgin for their 23-point inspection. Call 847-888-9644. Weekday mornings on the First Shift Show, we talk about community issues, like whether or not we should remove the dams right here along the Fox River.
You've got Elgin has a huge issue with infrastructure, with the drinking water. St. Charles has buildings built on the river with big concrete abutments. It's going to be an astronomical amount of money.
Yeah.
And I believe the prevailing sentiment at the board meeting the other night was, we are so far away from this ever becoming reality.
It's The First Shift, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m., right here on WRMN.
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Jaime Dee Show. Woo! Live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. PST out of the Las Vegas area. And we're also live on WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM every Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. CST out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. Oh yeah, we're also live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook at The Jaime Dee Show. That's spelled TheJaimeDeeshow. If you are having a good time, I see we have more people viewing the YouTube than actually in the chat. You're more than welcome to log in using your Gmail, and you can comment your questions there. I see we have some questions in the chat right now that I will ask. So make sure you put your questions in the chat so I can acknowledge them later in the interview. And if you want to call in, 847-931-1410. Again, that's 847-931-1410 to get live on the radio. All right, let's bring in the amazing Dr. Amara Pope back on to the show. Because listen, we got some things to talk about, friend. And I'm really excited to have you here because you're really dissecting this history that a lot of people in American culture don't even think about, because unfortunately we still are two different countries. And even though we have a lot of similarities in our people and the things that we do and the entertainment that we share, there still is a barrier. And so let's break that barrier today. And let's talk about the history of Canadian R&B.
Well, when I talk about the history of Canadian R&B, I go all the way back to minstrelsy. So that's when we had white performers come on stage in the 19th century and represent what Black identities were. And back then, we talk about minstrelsy transforming or transpiring into what we call Black genre music. So it created these ideas of what Black identities were, and that then went into the organization of music genre categories. So that's what actually eventually led from Billboard taking Black music to Black singles to R&B and changing it multiple times, urban, to all these different genres, but really R&B having a long history of representing Black music. And when it represented that Black music, it also then, as I mentioned before the break, became associated with Black American culture. So when we had Canadians participating in the space, we saw many Canadians moving to the US to get recognition before coming back to Canada. And so when I talk about Canadian R&B history, I talk about it being deeply indebted to American culture. So as you mentioned, Americans don't really think about it, but when you do think about it, you see how much Americans have actually helped catapult what I call Canadian R&B music.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're talking about catapulting Canadian R&B music, how do you think that those artists like Drake, Justin Bieber, Jessie Reyez, who do go into America, pop off, become an American, when I tell you like star, but then go back to Canada, how do you think they're received? Are they received the exact same way? Is there a little you kind of left us, become something better? Like what actually happens when they come back?
Well, when I talk about Bieber, Drake, and Reyez in the categories of Canadian R&B genres and generations, I talk about Bieber, Drake, and Reyez all representing kind of the new genre of contemporary R&B, which mixes hip hop, pop, R&B music. So they introduced the pop element to get more mainstream hits. But I put Bieber and Drake in their own generation, and I put them as separate from Reyez because Bieber and Drake came out right when social media was hitting. Yep. So they gathered a local audience. They did have fans in the US or in Canada and the US. And when they went to the US, they still had those Canadian fans. Where Jessie Reyez is a third generation, she had more homegrown help, more homegrown talent. So I think that in a way she had less of an ostracism when she came back to Canada because she was creating her career a lot within Canada itself. But we see in a lot of Toronto and, many of our small Ontario towns here, a lot of hate towards Bieber and Drake. And it's just become a thing. It's cool to hate on those artists because it's crazy. It's crazy that we don't want to celebrate our own talent. And they've often stated that they found more support and more fans in the US rather than Canada.
I find it really crazy how the term it be your own people really resonates with everybody. It could be in a different nationality, it could be in a different ethnicity group. It doesn't, that term does not stick with just Black people. And it's crazy how it's so much easier and so much more fun, quote unquote, to hate on your people than it is to take a step back, realize you're putting on for our people, you're making a way for our people, and now you're opening doors for people like me, who's right now being a hater because I wish I was in your spot.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, 100%. I think that's what a lot of it is. It's that people are jealous. They want to be, there's so many Canadian artists that are trying to break in and they see what these few artists have accomplished. And then it just becomes a jealousy thing where they want to hate on them.
Because again, they're opening the doors for those jealous people to actually make a way. Now it's easier for those jealous people who are hating to get into the industry than it ever was before. But instead of taking a step back, respecting that, understanding like, hey, it wasn't going to be me, but it was somebody else. But now I have a higher chance of getting there as well. They just say, let's just hate. And I think that's the dumbest thing that people do, especially in our world that we're living in now, because we already face so much hate as it is walking outside. Why not love on each other? Now, I want to talk about this because when you look at the history of Canadian R&B, you look at how a lot of American culture truly does create culture around the world. When we look at what you said about how Canadian R&B started off with white artists and white artists portraying Black culture and so on and so forth, how would you say Canada created their music genres? Was it something that they created for themselves and it kind of just mixed with American culture, or did American culture really create the space in Canada and Canada just jumped on it?
Yeah, when I talk about that history of Canadian R&B, I talk about kind of the creation of our music world, and I talk about the very first music genre charts and award shows, and a lot of it was created through the categories that the US was already creating and using. And so when we created a star system in Canada, we relied heavily on what the US was doing. We're a very small country in comparison. We have a smaller population, we have a younger music industry. So a lot of what the US was doing is what we mimicked when we were creating ours. And that involves creating a predominantly white entertainment industry. So we did the same thing in Canada, except a bit worse, you could say, because we didn't allow as much diversity to happen in mainstream media.
Which is kind of crazy to me because as a radio personality, an actor on TV, international commercial artist, and international Billboard artist, I have been I've been shown opportunities in Canada that I really wanted. And I'm like, I want to audition for this role, or I want to apply for this radio position because I think Canada's great. But you guys are so serious about, we're going to give these jobs to Canadians only, and you have to be a Canadian resident to get these jobs. But when you look at how the lack of support for Canadian artists actually is, it makes no sense how on one hand, they're like, we're feeding everything to Canadians, but on the other hand, we're also hindering them from really being great. Let's talk about that.
Well, when I was conducting my research for my PhD, I interviewed 35 marketing professionals and music industry executives in Canada and in the US. And when I was interviewing them in Canada, I found that a lot of the music industry executives recognized our lack of support for quote unquote Black music, and it's still occurring today. And when I was doing the research, I saw, Republic Records in the US, for example, came out and said that they're going to stop using the term urban because it had very negative connotations. It was harming a lot of the artists pushed into that category rather than helping them. So we see it happening in Canada and in the US, but many of the Canadian music industry executives said that we have a much longer way to go than in the US.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Now, we are getting some submitted questions right now, so I want to ask you before we go to break. Tracy, the Way Up CEO, says, how does one gain Canadian fame in the absence of American influence?
I don't think you can actually silo the two. I think we're so deeply indebted to one another, especially Canadians heavily relying on the entertainment space in the US, that we haven't seen that happen yet. And I don't know if we ever will, because our roots are so deeply indebted in US culture.
Now, this is a great segue to the next question she asked, because you say you're so indebted to the American culture. She wants to know, who are some truly famous Canadians who aren't Americanized?
Well, although I say Jessie Reyez does heavily rely on US culture. I think she is a very proud Canadian because she also talks about the immigrant struggle, similar to my experiences. She talks about growing up in many different parts of Ontario, and she heavily relies on her Canadian identity to be portrayed in her music videos as well as in interviews. She represents Toronto anywhere she goes. So I would definitely say Jessie Reyez is through and through a Canadian.
Love that. Now, I watch your interviews on other shows, and you have specified where you were born and raised. And I want you to go ahead and shout that out, because I know people love to be like, I'm from here, I'm from there. We're talking about Toronto. And when I'm seeing where you're from, it sounds so similar to your name. Where are you from?
Oh, okay. So I was born in Scarborough, Ontario, but I moved to somewhere called Elmira, Ontario. So I became Amara from Elmira. And Scarborough, multicultural, very diverse, very much in the hub of Toronto, diversity, central entertainment industry, booming. That space is booming. But then when I moved to Elmira, Ontario, we were surrounded by horse and buggies, predominantly Mennonites. We were the only brown family in a corner house. So it was a very different experience.
Right.
But yeah.
So Amara from Elmira. Did I do that right?
From Elmira, yeah.
I love it. All right, Dr. Amara Pope, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got more questions for you. Don't go nowhere. You better stay right there. This is the Jaime Dee Show, live on KSHP out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and live on WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. Stay there.
Hi, I'm Marky B from the First Shift Morning Show, and on my show, I often engage in long, hard, deep conversations with my listeners about everyday life.
This morning we had hash browns and eggs, and ham.
Well, what else is going on, Susan? You think I'd look good with hair the same color as yours?
Totally.
Well, anything on the agenda for today?
No.
Now that's powerful radio. So listen to the First Shift weekday mornings beginning at 6 a.m. right here on WRMN.
A recent Gallup poll indicated that 38% of Americans are putting off healthcare because of financial concerns, the highest ever recorded. I'm Dr. Bob Martin, here to serve you every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. Millions of Americans are seeking health advice that will not cost an arm and a leg, so I offer health tips and advice absolutely free. Listen to my show, Sunday afternoons from 1 to 4 right here on WRMN, AM 1410 and 96.7 FM, the voice of the Valley and the home of Radio Shopping Show.
You can't beat Stanley's Grill and Craft Bar for great pub food, beer, and specials. Their Royal Slot Room is your destination for gaming, only a few steps away from the bar. Stanley's has a private banquet room with capacity for 75, with its own washrooms, jukebox, pinball, and games. Dine al fresco at Stanley's Pavilion outdoor dining area. There's a fireplace and huge TV. Stanley's can also deliver right to your home or other local venue. For catering, visit partywithstan.com. Golden Corral Buffet and Grill, 154 Gary Avenue in Bloomingdale is open. Golden Corral's legendary Endless Buffet has a variety of delicious favorites and new menu offerings for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Guests can choose from over 150 items, including grilled-to-order sirloin, pork, seafood, as well as old favorites like fried chicken, meatloaf, and mac and cheese. Golden Corral is the only one for everyone. Visit goldencorral.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Jaime Dee Show. Woo! I'm lit, y'all. We are live right now. I feel like I'm in Canada. Eh? But yes, we're live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. PST out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and live on WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM every Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. CST out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. We're live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook at The Jaime Dee Show. That's spelled TheJaimeDeeshow. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this link out to your friends and family. Help the Jaime Dee Show grow. And as well, if you want to promote your business, product, services, music, and more, hit us up at info@JaimeDee.com. That's info@JaimeDee.com. I can guarantee you'll get the exposure you need. Wink. right, let's bring back in Dr. Amara Pope. Hey, welcome in. All right, so in the last segment, we were kind of talking about a vast majority of things as pertains to Canadian R&B, how it was birthed, how it has evolved, and how it really has pushed Canadians to move to America and be present in our culture to become who they are today. We spoke about Drake, we spoke about Justin Bieber, and we spoke about Jessie Reyez. And so I want to talk about that. You have your PhD where you talk about the online marketing strategies of big name artists like Drake, Justin Bieber, and Jessie Reyez. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. So I know through my research, because I wouldn't be a journalist if I didn't do research. Dr. Amara Pope, you have been on the Billboard, not just Billboard, but the Billboard. You've been on TV, iHeartRadio, which I've worked for, National Post, CBC, Vice, Daily Hive, Your Morning, and more. And you're also a TEDx speaker. Now, hold on, real quick. I'm also a TEDx speaker. I was flown out to New York to do a TED Talk. Do I get to be a TEDx like person? Do I get to put that on my title?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't know that.
Add that to your handle.
I'm about to put that on my handle. I didn't know that. Yes, if y'all didn't know, I am a TEDx speaker.
No.
But yes. So one thing I'm super excited about is the fact that you have been on so many different platforms, and not only have you spoke about many of the same different topics, you have been able to be vast in your approach and in your communication and always spill a little bit more each and every time. And so I want to give people a preview of you on CTV's This Hour with Angie Seth, where you spoke about Canadians redefining R&B and what that looks like for artists like Drake and so on. So for everybody's looking in, let's take a listen.
To bring music into this because that's sort of where you dive into with your PhD. Canadian R&B, you look at sort of the genre of Canadian R&B, how it came about, how the influence of it, the popularity of it. But we know that when we look at the lyrics and we look at, the likes of Drake, et cetera, and his early music, there's a story. There's always a story there. And now as in your research, you look at that stuff and you look at and you look at the lyrics. Talk to me about the relationship between Canadian R&B and diversity.
Yes, so in my PhD dissertation, I looked at the rise of Canadian R&B and how many immigrants actually contributed to that space.
Right.
They paved the way, and because they lacked support in Canadian mainstream media, they had to work in the periphery of society.
Right.
Oftentimes moving to the States, but also collaborating across many different genre styles. That could be soca, reggae, calypso, R&B, even hip hop. And because they collaborated together, they created this mixture of cultural sounds and styles.
Now, let's get into this because you say they've mixed cultural sound and styles. It is their new genre of contemporary R&B, which has hip hop, pop, calypso, reggae, and so much more. When we look at social media, and I'm gonna be very frank with you, there really is no real rule book. People love to get on social media and say, this is how you become famous. This is how you do this. But as we know, the algorithm changes all the time. As we know, us as content creators and consumers, we don't control social media. We're just participants on social media. And when we think we cracked the code, they're like, gotcha. And so I want to talk about the online marketing of Drake, Justin Bieber, and Jessie Reyez, because we know that, yes, they could become big names, but it's so easy nowadays to get canceled, to fall off, to have something in your past show up, and you're not a celebrity anymore. So let's talk about how they've been able to use their online marketing to break through in their industry and also continue to stay relevant in the industry.
Yeah, well, Justin Bieber, Drake, and Jessie Reyez, I talk about how all three of them break into the music industry and essentially look at their rise to fame. And when I do that, I look at not only how they used online marketing platforms, but traditional networking as well. So I always preface that their online marketing strategies are coupled with the traditional marketing strategy of networking. So all three of them had specific individuals that helped them to catapult their careers at the very beginning. And that's what helped them to break barriers. So when you start to think of Justin Bieber as like an overnight success, or Drake as kind of an anomaly that he broke in through nowhere, that he just came out of nowhere and he was this viral online sensation, I kind of debunk that myth and say that they had to use the traditional ways as well as social media. And I look at how Drake back in the day used Blogspot and MySpace to help amplify his visibility. I know. It seems ancient now.
Right.
And then Justin Bieber, he used YouTube, and Jessie Reyez, she actually used Facebook. And all of these different platforms that they used helped them attract the attention of one key individual that would help them break in.
Now, you said that there was a specific person they used to help them break in the industry. Who was this specific person? Was it another celebrity?
It was, so for Drake, he met Jazz Prince, and Jazz Prince, his father was in the music industry, and Jazz Prince was trying to break in the industry as well to represent talent. So he was young and eager to look for talent. Drake was young and eager to look for somebody to represent him. So that seemed to be a very good synergy. Jazz Prince then introduced him to people like Lil Wayne, Kanye West, and those connections kind of snowballed from there. Justin Bieber, he met Scooter Braun, and Scooter Braun was already well vetted in the industry. He had many connections already, but he was also looking to do his own thing and to find his own talent. He found Asha Roth, and then he found Justin Bieber on social media. So then that was also a great match. And then Jessie Reyez met Mauricio Ruz, and Mauricio was also in the same position, looking for new talent to then grow in Canada, and he came across Jessie Reyez on Facebook. So again, it's just finding that key individual who's also equally as eager to help you break in, and you being that talent that is as eager to break into the industry.
What you just said is something that we truly sometimes forget. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And we look at this online marketing strategies we're talking about with these 3 different artists. It started off with who they knew. And we have another comment right now and question that says, even though Drake met these people and they put him on, did you not factor in the fact that his dad was already famous and that Drake was known for acting? I mean, he was on Degrassi. Everyone loves Degrassi.
So I 100% include that in my long dissertation. It's over 400 pages. So I'm trying to give you the brief synopsis. But yes, I talk about Drake's, he talks about even being photographed on stage with his father on his lap. So he was introduced to the music industry well before, he got signed. And I talk about how he uses MySpace and Blogspot to take his online audience from Degrassi and from these different social media platforms and put them onto his music. So he already had a local fan base. He was performing in local spaces in Toronto, and he took that local audience to help catapult his career as well.
Dr. Amara Pope, I have to ask this, and this may make you chuckle a little bit, but you're already laughing. I just have to ask this because you've been on so many major platforms. You have your PhD. Congratulations. You defended your dissertation, and you talk often about Drake, Justin Bieber, and Jessie Reyez. Has any of them reached out to you? I mean, you talk about them so much. I mean, you're literally going on a promotional campaign for them. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, let me preface this. I have been talking about Drake for a long time with like TEDx, with my master's degree, but with Jessie Reyez, Justin Bieber, I only graduated technically in November. So this is all new. And I'm hoping one of them reaches out to me at some point. I would love to do it. I mean, I study them as an academic, but also as a fan. Of course, I love their music. Of course, I love what their branding and marketing strategies are. So for me, it was fun to do this research. And I wouldn't say I idolize them, but I definitely respect what they do.
Let me tell you this, Dr. Amara Pope. The Jaime Dee Show has a lot of exposure. I've been in the industry for a long time. I've brushed shoulders with a lot of these different celebrities. So you never know where this interview can go. I speak it into existence for you because, like you said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I just asked this. When you meet them, don't forget about me.
Okay. I'll just say this now. If I meet any 3 of them, I will thank you first thing I do when I see them.
Y'all heard that live on the radio and live on all different streaming platforms. I will make sure to call you out if you don't.
Oh, you will. I mean, you have it recorded now. I'm on the air.
I love it. I love it. And when you come down to America, we got to hang out, friend. We got to make things. Now, when you talk about how passionate you were, because you started in marketing and digital and all the other stuff before you really got into your dissertation, your PhD, and truly Canadian R&B, you said that, through your research, that's what gave you that bright light of like, there's another thing that I want to research and get into. Is there anything else that you can say, this is why I'm so passionate about the world of music?
I grew up in a Trinity household. Music was such a huge part of my existence. It became a part of every holiday, just every day-to-day activity, cooking, everything, So music to me is just a part of my everyday life. I also go to the gym every day, going to the gym, listening to my beats, just music is so integral to me as a person. So I would say that is where the passion lies, is just a true fan and a true contributor to the space that I just want to see more diversity represented. So it's not just a research project to me. It's not something that I like to talk about. It's something that I truly believe in.
Now, you talk about how diversity truly matters and how it does push cultures forward and representation matters. Why is it that music affects our societies as much as it does today?
I think musical artists are in a unique position of influence, different from political leaders, different from, quote unquote, social media influencers. These artists can resonate with us through storytelling, and that can be experienced on so many different platforms. Whether you hear it on the radio, you watch a music video, you go to the grocery store and you hear their music, they're everywhere. They're ubiquitous in our society. So I think that they have a huge potential influence to shape our culture. And I think that when they use it in good ways, in ways of bringing us together, creating live concerts to bring that audience, doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, what nationality you are, you're in that audience and you feel a sense of community. And I think that artists can do that in such a beautiful way.
You're not wrong. We do have a personal question from Kendra. She wants to know, have you been to OVO XO Festival or Carnival in Canada yet?
I have been to Carnival in Canada a couple times, and actually it's my 30th birthday this year and my mom's 60th.
Me too!
Oh, okay. So I'm planning to go with my mom and my best friends to rock Carnival this year. It will be great. I've never actually played Mass before, so that's something I really want to do. I can't wait to see my mother and me just rocking that. It'll be super fun, but I have not been able to go to OVO. Honestly, between us, it's very expensive. So I have not been able to afford it right now to be able to go. One of these years we'll get there, but yeah.
Well, congratulations on everything that you're doing. Happy early birthday, and you will be able to go to OVO XO Festival one day. I'll be in Canada. I've always visited. I've been there several times. You never know. I might be able to be in your town one day soon. Now, I want to know this before we leave off today. What's next for you?
Oh, what's next for me? I am taking this to the road and doing a ton of public speaking. I love to guest lecture. I love to do presentations for companies, learning more about diversity. So I want to take this passion I have for representing diversity and take it anywhere I can go at, in schools, in corporations, wherever's willing to listen. So I'm happy to do that this year.
You will continue to break down barriers. I believe in you. I'm rooting for you. And thank you so much. I mean, look, you reached out to me on Instagram. We're live right now.
I know.
So happy that you did that. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the Jaime Dee Show. I'm glad that we're connecting now. We are here. We're there, friend. We're turning 30 this year. I'm calling mine the Flirty 30. What you calling yours?
Oh, I love that. No. We'll keep going with the 30 flirty. I love it.
Yes, love it. Thank you so much. Let everybody know how they can follow you and support you as you continue to grow in your career.
You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All of my handles are at DrAmaraPope. So at Dr. Amara Pope, or visit my website, www.DrAmaraPope.ca or .com.
Yes, thank you so much. Like I said, I'm rooting for you. Have a good rest of your day, okay?
Thank you. Take care.
See you, friend. Everybody, that was Dr. Amara Pope. I know y'all are clapping it up back at home, but I'm going to ring that bell for her. So grateful to have her live on my radio show. She's such an awesome light. I really am rooting for her. She's going to be blessed. She's going to have everything she needs and more. And I promise you, she's going to meet Drake, Justin Bieber, or Jessie Reyez, and she better make sure she let me know. All right, everybody, this has been the Jaime Dee Show live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. PST out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and live on WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM every Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. CST out of the Elgin and the Chicagoland area. Don't forget, if you want to promote your music, your business, your products, your services, and more, hit us up at info@JaimeDee.com. That's info@JaimeDee.com. I guarantee you will get the exposure you need. Wink. Peace out, y'all. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.